in those counties and any county in the state file their applications with us so that they are entitled to receive the rebate that you've granted them.
Morning, everyone. What a beautiful fall day it is. I'm glad that everybody is here. Looks like we've got a crew of 14 right now, and I know a lot of them are OPI individuals with our big sky blue background. Of course, you can see the agenda. It's rather lengthy. We do have 10 items at this point, and we want to get this done as soon as we possibly could, because I know everyone is back to school and students are important. So welcome everyone. Wendy, let's just jump into it. Let's talk about the ESSER update.
All right, so I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Oops, Brian, can you allow me sharing? And I'm going to talk about, we've just opened up on Friday, the self-monitoring assessment form, and that has been mailed out to or emailed out to 300 authorized representatives. This is kind of what it looks like. We had a great success rate on that email. We only had one bounce back. So thank you everybody for making sure that those emails were accurately updated in our system. Basically, the self-assessment was a document that we've been working on with several different LEAs throughout the state and helping to put this together. So we've had a review committee review it. It is lengthy. It's in an Excel format, but the feedback we've received has been very positive. So that document people should be receiving. It opened up last Friday and it will close at the end of November. We've had some office hours already, and the ESSER team is always available to answer any questions that anyone has on either performing that self-assessment or how we're going to be using it going forward. In addition to this self-assessment monitoring tool, we'll also be looking at doing some secondary monitoring and auditing with regards to particularly capital expenditures, because in our state, we've had a lot of capital expenditure projects come about because of the ESSER funding. So that's been pretty unusual, and we're going to be diving into that. The other area, Superintendent, that's pretty pertinent right now is on everybody's mind, this whole issue of spend down with ESSER 2 coming through our processing and getting really close to that deadline. Again, just to remind everyone, we do have an option to do a liquidation. It has been available in our Compass. There are some pretty stringent guidelines with regards to doing that. The justification, and I'll just show you, it's again in Excel format, so we're all kind of diving into the Excel world. There is a justification component that needs to be filled out, and then also tracking with why those extensions are needed and documentation that goes along with it. So that extension is not a blanket across, it's just an opportunity, and we will be hosting some office hours to allow your input with that. So again, just like with the self-monitoring and getting feedback, we really like to work in partnership with all of you and others that are out there and maybe not attending today. But we really welcome your input on this process. We can answer any questions that you have. And we will be jumping in tomorrow into the 10 o'clock to 11 o'clock superintendent office hours to try and answer any questions on the liquidations and really to answer any questions overall on the assessment and monitor moving forward. I know there's only a year left with ESSER and it feels like you're heading down the stretch. We just really want you to know that our team is here. All of OPI is here to help you in that process. So thank you. And if there are any questions, feel free to ask. Oops, Superintendent, you're muted. Oops.
Thanks. I thought I would get through at least one Zoom meeting today without having that button off. Oh, goodness. Anyway, thank you, Wendy. Very short and succinct. Any information that we have, please rest assured that this will be forwarded to you at the conclusion and also is on our website with that. Let's go ahead and move to our third one. Crystal, let's talk about MAST and where we are. And in October, we've got our first testlet that's going to be.
Thank you, Superintendent, and good morning, those of you who are joining us today. Looks like Brian's got my slides up, so I will continue without further ado. Brian, if you want to hit us over to the next slide. I'd like to start by just sharing some of the MAST news relating back to the last 5 or so months. Again, we continue to shout out the double testing waiver that was provided to Montana to ensure that our students who are participating in the MAST pilot for year 2 will not have to continue to take a Smarter Balanced Assessment in spring of 2024. This will allow us in the second year of our pilot to continue to test questions, make sure that we have all systems go ready before we roll out with a statewide assessment in 24-25. From consultation with our TAC team, our technical advisory team for both us, the OPI, and New Meridian, we have began recruitment for a Form B. A Form B is a summative assessment that is made up of the testlets that Form A students will be taking at the end of the year in order to help us navigate our way through peer review in the fall of 2025. In addition to that, we have a Math T13 anchor testlet, which will have the same questions in both the Form A and Form B that will be given at the end of the 5th testing window, again, in consultation with our TAC teams in order to help us ensure that a through-year model is accurate and able to help us navigate through the peer review process. We currently are just finishing up our curriculum alignment survey. So this has gone out to districts who are participating in the through-year model, aligning and gathering their curriculum and standards, scope and sequences as testlets in this second year pilot will be according to the district level scope and sequence, which we're very excited about, really shortening the time between when students are taught standards to the time when they will be assessed on the same standards. Today is the first day of our technical and testing support schedules that we will be working with the field, being able to answer any questions, giving an overview of this year 2 pilot, and then helping as districts work towards getting rostering into the KITE platform prior to our October 24th, our 23rd window opening. And then the OPI is committed to weekly communication with our districts, providing them the newest timelines and what the tasks are required of them as we move into this first testing window. Next slide, Brian. Thank you. So here's just a brief overview model of what these Form A's and Form B looks like for math and then for ELA. You'll see here in this visual that we have anchor tasks in math that are found on both Form A and Form B, and then they will be compiled to provide a T13 anchor assessment at the end of this testing window. This is a 1-year model in which this will not be occurring in our 24-25 statewide assessment. And again, it is to show alignment with our through course and through year assessment model. Go ahead, Brian. Here is the most recent updated map of the state of Montana and the districts that we have participating. Notice that we have districts geographically throughout the state of Montana, which we're excited to have those participants, 54 districts in total who will be participating in Form A as we're continuing to recruit districts for Form B, which is, again, that summative model. We have districts representing AA, or students representing AA districts all the way to Class C districts, Native students, and we're really excited to see that the demographics of our students who are participating truly aligns and parallels that of a statewide model. So as we continue to pilot this and move forward into a full year model, that demographic alignment is key to our peer review process and moving forward in data collection. And Brian, I think there's one more slide. So upcoming mass events, as I said, that first window opens October 23rd. Remember, we have 5 testing windows this year instead of 4 from the previous year. We are currently recruiting teachers for item review cadres. So these are Montana teachers who would be willing to review items and help as we truly build an assessment from a Montana point of view, whether that's the passages that students are reading with Montana alignment, to the test questions that are brought forth to help assess students. So if we have any teachers out there who are interested in being a part of this review process, please contact me and we will get you signed up. And then throughout this year, we're going to provide cognitive labs and stakeholder engagement sessions, again, with a true vision of this assessment being a Montana assessment, not a federal assessment that's provided to Montana. So with that, I will close, and I am available for any questions that anyone may have.
Thank you, Crystal. Looking out there to see if there's any hands up, or if anyone has any questions, just jump right in. All right, for efficiencies, let's go ahead and move right into something that dovetails. We have our 2022-2023 assessment scores that are out from our summative assessment. Cedar, let's go into that one.
Perfect. Good morning, Superintendent. Good morning, everyone. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, and I will go through some of our 2022-2023 data that was recently released. All right, and here we go. So today I'm going to be sharing with you, let's see if I can go over there. I'm going to just share with you the data release timeline that we used for this year. We're going to talk about some of our return to pre-pandemic testing levels, which is really exciting for our participation. We're going to talk about some of the trends we see with our 3rd through 8th grade math and ELA and how those look a little bit different this year. Then we're going to round things out with some encouraging ACT growth across all domains. This was the data release timeline that we followed for this year. School districts were able to receive those individual student reports very close to the end of testing due to our computer-based testing models. So they were able to see those after testing finished and then through the summer. We received those raw data files from our assessment partners and start going through the data reconciliation process throughout the summer to make sure they're accurate, make sure that data is reconciled before those go into the GEMS data longitudinal warehouse. Where we start looking internally at those trends and making sure that data is ready for release. On September 5th, we started a district embargo stage where school districts were able to see that reconciled district data, but also compared to statewide data to prepare for a public release. We also offered office hours during that time to district personnel to make sure that they understood their data and could access it. And then on the morning of September 12th, so last Tuesday at 8 o'clock, that data went public to the GEMS longitudinal warehouse. That accompanied a media release from the superintendent's office, an education interim committee presentation to the Board of Public Ed, and then today's education advocates presentation as well. So with that, we will dive right into our participation trends. These two graphs show our longitudinal participation percentage for math and ELA and listening in grades 3 through 8. So including the Smarter Balanced Assessment and our multi-state alternative assessment as well. So as you can see, our post-pandemic in the year 2020, 2021, there was a drop-off getting people back into that testing. But we are really excited to see that this year we are back up to our historical testing rates above that 95% as required by ESSA. So we are about 80 or 98% of our students assessed in 3rd through 8th grade. Which is a total of about 68,000 students. So really good to see that participation increasing. And so we're getting those really valid results and that validated that we can use to guide our learning. Our ACT participation trends show similar things, that we are returning back to that pre-pandemic rate. We're at between a 92 and a 93% participation rate between our math, our ELA that are shown here. And then our science is in the middle too with about a 93%. We do realize that with our high school ACT, there's some work that needs to be done to get that participation up to that 95%. So we will be working on that with the assessment unit to see how we can really support testing at all levels. So just some highlighted key points from that participation. Like I said, return to our pre-pandemic participation rates, which is really great to see. Our ACT participation rate is historically under that 95%. So we are going to be working really hard in our unit to make sure we get that high school participation rate to what it needs to be at that 95% in the coming year. We will move into our 3rd through 8th grade math proficiency levels. So that's Smarter Balanced Assessment and our multi-state alternative assessment as well. So this data is showing our last 7 years of administration with that 2019-2020 testing gap due to the pandemic. So as we can see for our math proficiency levels, while our novice range has remained pretty steady around that 33% over the last 3 administrations, there has been a steady increase to those students that are in the advanced and proficient levels compared to the last 2 administration years. So this data is showing longitudinal at those students in the green and that blue level at the at or above proficiency. So as you can see in the 2020-21 and moving forward from 2020 to 2021 and then 2021-2022 between those 2 administration years, we had about 0.9% increase in students that were advanced or proficient. And then between that last administration year and this administration year, 2022-2023, we had another 1% increase. So a steady increase that we're excited to see. But as you can note, it's still well below those pre-pandemic testing levels. This is that same 2 assessments for our 3rd through 8th grade ELA proficiency levels. We're looking at the ELA side of things now. So we have had a continuous increase of students in the novice level starting before the pandemic, with about a 1.3% increase in students between the 2021-2022 and 2022-2023 administration years, scoring in that novice level. So an interesting data point to track and continuously monitor. Our advanced and nearing proficient levels have remained relatively steady, and the percent of students in the proficient range slightly decreased. So there's that same longitudinal data we looked at for math, but now we're looking at it for ELA. So as you can see, between the 2020-2021 and 2021-2022, we had a slight decrease, about 0.2% increase in students that were at or above proficiency. And then between the 2021-2022 and the last administration year, we had a 1.2% increase in students that were at that proficiency level. So like I said, interesting data to monitor and start to dive into. This is showing the percent of students that are at or above proficiency per grade level for each one of those subjects. So our math is in our orange and our ELA is in our blue. So as you can see, our ELA our percent of students that are at or above proficiency remains pretty steady throughout grades 3 through 8. We have a small increase from grades 3 to 4. So as you can see in that orange data, that math data, we start at about that 44% students at or above proficiency, but then we have a pretty significant decrease in students at the at or above proficiency level starting in grade 5, and then continuing through those middle school years with another small drop off in 8th grade. So really interesting to make sure that we're aligning our goals to that middle school math initiatives. So just some of those key points for grades 3 through 8. We're showing an increase in math proficiency over the last 2 years and then decrease in ELA proficiency. There's a substantially lower performance in grades 3 through 8 in our math compared to grades 3 through 4, while we're seeing fairly consistent ELA proficiency through all of our grade levels. We'll wrap up today with which I think was our bright spot for our assessment data for this year, which is our ACT score. So really excited to see overall our ACT composite score trends after a decrease between the 2020-2021 and 2022-23 levels. We had a 0.8% or a 0.8 point increase in our ACT overall average composite score, and that's really supported by increases in all of our domains for those scoring. So as you can see with those math proficiency levels, we've shown a substantial increase with the lowest in the proficiency levels with a huge decrease in students scoring in that novice range. So that overall translated to 5.3% more students that are scoring in the advanced or in the proficient range. So that green and that blue block is increasing over that time after a small decrease in the 2021-2022 administration year. For our ELA proficiency levels, these are so promising to see, not just a recovery to pre-pandemic levels, but historically high levels of students in that advanced or proficiency. So the percent of students in that advanced level increased 7.7%, and the percent of students in the proficient level increased 3.7%, leading to overall 53.4% of students were at or above proficiency for ELA on the ACT. So this is not just promising post-pandemic, like I said, this is a historical high. It's the highest rate of students that have been at or above proficiency rate since 2015-2016 when the ACT became our state accountability assessment. These level of achievement is extremely encouraging, but it also reflects the sustained efforts of Montana's students and educators. Just some key ACT points to highlight. Increased average composite score supported by a high rate of proficiency across all domains, and then the highest rates of math and ELA proficiency since the pandemic, with that ELA proficiency at a historic high. We'll just go over our science data quickly. So remember, our science assessments are taken in grades 5 and 8 with our MSA and our AMSA, our Montana Science Assessment, and our alternate Montana Science Assessment. So we have 2 years of data since we were field testing the year before. Not a lot of changes between last year's administration, this current year's administration. Our proficiency is leveling right around that 31%. ACT, we saw, once again, all of our domains really supported an average overall composite growth. And we had about 30% of our students at or above or at the advanced or the proficient level for ACT science. If you would like to dive deeper into this data, you can go to the GEMS data warehouse, the website's there, and you can explore not just this current year's data, but all of our historical data and start to segregate it by grades, by specific groups. This presentation will also get out to you, but it is posted on the assessment webpage of the OPI website. If there are any questions, I welcome them at this time.
Take a deep breath. Great presentation again. Some positive takeaways, but also some concerning ones as well. Tomorrow, Cedar and I will be at the Board of Regents. She'll be zooming in. I'll be there in person. It is in Butte. Just to shout out the positive opportunities that the ACT is yielding. And I think that partnership from moving from secondary to post-secondary is exceedingly important. No other questions? Perfect. Let's go ahead and move on. Ellery, I believe, no, let's go to Early Literacy Collaborative. Christy.
Hey, I was getting a little feedback earlier. Can you all hear me clearly?
Yes.
Perfect. Well, House Bill 352 establishes early literacy targeted interventions, and this bill is an exciting opportunity for students and teachers in Montana and for families. And the superintendent is really encouraged and enthusiastic about the intent of this bill to foster collaboration across state agencies, between schools and families and students. So currently, the OPI is in the process of hiring 2 full-time positions to support the work of this bill. One will be an early literacy specialist and one will be a data research analyst. Once these positions are onboarded, the superintendent will work to create an early literacy collaborative. And this group will aim to foster that spirit of collaboration in the bill by bringing together and gathering data from schools, teachers, families to help us with the implementation of all of the components of this bill, as well as to provide data and information in making decisions on important aspects of the bill, such as evaluation tools, classroom-based programs, and particularly home-based programs. The Board of Public Education last week approved an Early Literacy Advisory Council, and the OPI has a representative on that council. It will be Marie Judish, and our collaborative will hopefully inform that process as well. That's the quick overview of House Bill 352. Does anyone have any questions?
Thank you, Christy. All righty. Lots of things that are working. We've got our hands in a lot of buckets at this point. Let's now then move on to Ellery, I do believe.
Yes, thank you, Superintendent, and thank you all for attending. I'm filling in for Crystal. She had a conflict. I'm just going to start with a brief recap of what is going on in accreditation. So we had rules that had changed July 1st of 2023. We got some new ones in there, some updated. It was really exciting. So with that process, we have separated the annual data collection from ourselves to the AIM unit, and accreditation will now take place in the spring. AIM has some excellent trainings going on. You can visit their website if you want to sign up for that. With the switching, we are also switching how we are accrediting schools. We're going from just a checkbox system to switching to a rubric-based system, which is going to allow some more flexibility for schools. With the rubrics, we met with a think tank group with key stakeholders around the state that started July 27th and just wrapped up on September 11th. That included teachers, district superintendents, county superintendents from all over the state, including very small school districts to very large school districts. We wanted to gain a wide perspective on these. Those groups that met went over certain pieces of the rubrics that included family and community engagement, the graduate profile, student performance, professional development, and Indian education for all. So now we are in the process of compiling all of what they had come up with, and we are on track to finalize and release that year 1 criteria reference guide on October 2nd. And there's just a couple things on the website I just wanted to plug if I can, Brian. Looks like I can. So if you go to our accreditation website, we have this process and guidance site where we're releasing any information as far as guidance documents for the field. And then we also have our professional development schedule out for the year that we're going to offer to schools down below, but we have one coming up September 28th, and you can sign up for that here. We only have 10 registered so far. We are going over the CNA and stakeholder engagement, the ISAP and the educational goals, and the rubric system. The last thing I want to highlight is we have our variance to standard application has changed from the spring to the second Monday in October, and that is on our website down here for application materials. And you can go in and apply for that. Just want to make sure that people are aware that that is open, and then October 9th is when we need that. So that is everything. Any questions?
Thank you, Ellery. I know a lot of work is going into this, and the time is ticking. Accreditation is going to start in 24 with a brand new model, and the more information and voice that we hear from our schools, the better. So Laura, do you have any questions? I see that you're unmuted. All right, let's just go ahead and move on. Thank you, Ellery. Appreciate you. Let's go ahead and visit about content standards. Marie.
Good morning, Superintendent. Good morning, everyone. Marie Judish, Senior Manager of Teaching and Learning. I'm going to share my screen quickly so that I can show you how to navigate all the information that is involved with the content standards so that you can see everything going on, what the proposals are from the task force to the processes within the negotiated rulemaking. If you're at the home page of OPI and scroll down right below these buttons, we have a new little button here that will take you directly to the information for the content standards. Ooh. All right. So this will take you to the 4 different standards we have open, which includes English language proficiency, math, world languages, and English language arts. Right now, I'm going to show you where we are in each of these processes. This will be here for you so you can navigate where we are in the timeline for each one. We are right here in September, so we are finishing up our negotiated rulemaking for English proficiency standards. We have at least one more session to finish that rulemaking before we do an economic impact statement, and then it goes to the Board of Public Ed for their adoption process. For math, we have our last task force meeting today for the standards they have set for K-12, and that will go into negotiated rulemaking here in October. We are closing in on our negotiated rulemaking committee members and appointing those here and setting those dates. World languages is ready for negotiated rulemaking, and in a similar spot as math, we are setting that world languages negotiated rulemaking committee and still need a few more applicants. So any one of you are able to apply to be on that. We need people of all areas still. So that would be very helpful. On ELA, we are right at the beginning of our phase for research and review. So we are working with the REL Northwest, the Regional Educational Laboratory, which is helping us with some intentional research questions that we have about what is best practices for ELA across the nation right now, which aligns directly with our early literacy initiatives as well. sorry, I went a little faster, but this is the landing page for all of our task force and negotiated rulemaking members that has direct links to every working document, committee, meetings, agendas, and things like that. And it's right now the most active place. So for example, I won't go through all of them for you, but make sure you have access to seeing them. You can see where we are in terms of where to apply for the negotiated rulemaking committee. And also, I want to make sure to point out the live documents for what those incredible task force members have put together. They've worked very intentionally looking at research from the RAL for the math standards as well. And all of those working documents are right here so that you can navigate, see the different proposals that they're coming up with and working on together. With that, are there any? I'll stand for questions.
Thank you, Marie. A heavy lift for everyone, including our partners, the Board of Public Ed. We're very grateful that they are working in collaborative with us as we open up these standards. The process then that they will go to them, and they're the ones that will also hold public comment and get that voice of Montana as these rules get reviewed and possibly amended. In our meeting in Cowboy Country last week, when we were in Miles City, we had also asked the board to open up health and science, most specifically in how parent notification can be amplified. Since 2021, as well as in this last session, there was a lot of discussion on what does it mean with sex education and what is it that a parental notification might look like, so that we are all on the same page with that. And we're very hopeful that in November, the board can say yes on a very strategic opening, very simply to put in, not duplicate the language in law, but to really give more guidance to our school districts so that parental notification can be honored. So with that, we'll move on to the next one. Thank you, Marie. Let's go to Dr. Mergel. Julie, good morning.
Good morning, Superintendent. It's good to see each and every one of you. So I am going to share my screen really quickly. So what you will see here is we are offering this year some additional communication and support to our district and county superintendents. So we are hosting weekly office hours for every Wednesday from 10 to 11 a.m. at a Zoom link that is also posted on our webpage, which I will show you here in a second. We are publishing on that webpage frequently asked questions that are coming up during our office hours, as well as frequently asked questions that are coming to us through an email box. We've created a unique email box for OPI school leader support, where superintendents and district and county superintendents can send questions and requests to be addressed during the weekly office hours or followed up in those frequently asked questions. We're also sending via email to the presidents of the Montana Association of School Superintendents regions, updates on a monthly basis for them to really be keying in on important information that is within our monthly Compass edition. So when you go to our webpage, really quick to show you where that is, you will see here on the main page, again, over on the right-hand side column, an arrow that says School Leadership Support. When you click on that, all of that information that I just shared with you is posted here. So the Zoom link is available there. And then we have under that issue there is what's happening in every one of those sessions. So the things that we're talking about, updates. So you'll see unique information here, but also you'll see a summary of any questions that are asked during that time frame so that it can be captured there and viewed later at another time. So that is that information there. And Superintendent, I'm going to move, if that's okay, to the next item on the agenda for the consolidated IDA e-grants. And so hopefully you can see on the screen here, this is a view of the IDA consolidated overview e-grants application for the Part B and for IDA preschool, and they're consolidated into one application in here. And this purpose of this is to provide the special education and related services to children who are determined to be eligible. And so that is a process that's underway right now. We're really trying to communicate and provide additional support out to our districts as they complete this consolidated grant. So in terms of any of that, if you have any questions at all, please don't hesitate to reach out to our program contact, who's Danny McCarthy, or our accounting contact, Becky Billing, here at the agency. We're happy to do that. Also, just wanted to highlight what was in the September Compass as well is through the special education unit, we do have a significant needs grants that does provide limited funding for students with significant needs. And so it is available. There's a limited amount of funding that we do have that we can grant out to districts. So there's an application that has to be completed in order for that. So if you'd like an application or have questions about that significant needs grant under IDA, also reach out to Danny, and her phone number is here. Danny and Patrick are over presenting in Bozeman today at MCASE. And so certainly reach out to them, send an email. We're happy to help so that we can ensure that those grants get closed here in the next couple of weeks and approved. And so that any amendments that are needed are done so that the money can be flowing and everything is happening. Superintendent, I stand for any questions that anyone might have about either of those two items.
Thank you, Dr. Merkel, for being so efficient. If you'll understand with the first item that she spoke about, rather than waiting monthly and having communication within the different regions, we are weekly then having communication and open office hours. And more importantly, not just us being able to listen, but getting questions answered as efficiently as possible. And then, of course, the second, thank you very much for that, Dr. Merkel, and recognizing where our team is at this point in supporting special education students and teachers and co-ops across our state. But more importantly, being very efficient with this, but all of our e-grants are open. So for Title I, anything at all, we have great people here to help you navigate or help your constituency navigate if they have any questions. So thank you, Dr. Merkel. So let's move on to data modernization. Zam, good morning.
Good morning, Superintendent. Hello, everyone. Zam Aldina, project manager for data modernization. Chris Sidrud is he has a conflict at this point right now. There's a technical meeting regarding data modernization, which he's involved in, and I'm here. So I'm going to present the information. And so I'm just going to take over and share my screen if you give me a moment here. Let me know if you can see that, everyone.
Yes.
Okay. So this is an extensive and pretty detailed project update on this slide, which can be found on the website. I'm going to condense it really to some of the main and key points of where we're at right now. So basically, at this point right now, we are doing a lot of the requirements gathering, the assessment of the environment, including the data processes, and really this all goes towards, how are we going to be innovative? How are we going to simplify the application? And how are we going to streamline the data collections from the schools? So as we're going through this process, which we've been in the last about 4 weeks now, and it's led by OPI with Amazon Web Services and PowerSchools, who are capturing the information and creating an assessment based on the information that they're capturing with our team. They just recently provided us a draft last week, actually at the beginning of this week, where we are, and this is the IT project team, is reviewing that information. So that means we're reviewing for any inconsistency, if there's any information which is omitted. And so we went through our evaluation over the last couple of days, and we did provide that feedback back to PowerSchool. And within the next week, PowerSchool is going to look at that information, apply it to the assessment document. Now, the assessment document basically is an assessment of the environment as well as recommendations for the strategy to ensure that it does meet the 3 key points that I talked about right now. I've already talked about the selected vendor, Power School. We are in the evaluation state. And so what does this mean, moving forward? So basically for the future state, ensuring that the requirements that we've captured, not only from the RFP, but also from the 2 House bills, are encompassed in that future state and that strategy moving forward. And this is what they're going to be providing to us at the end of this month. Going on to the next slide, this is just a snapshot really of what that workshop looked like. It was pretty intensive in terms of our time and effort, sitting down and going through realistically over 75 data sources, as you see there in the circle. And this just gives you an idea of the amount of time and effort that it took to get to this point, which was very necessary to have these assessment documents created. The core features really of the application is the unified insights, community engagement, and connect intelligence. What that means is Unified Insights is the analytical tool. It is the technical and data module that's included that will fulfill the needs that we're looking for in the future state. Community engagement is the visualization of the data and how the demographic information is presented internally and to external as well, to the schools, to the districts. Connected intelligence is really our data source, really, and how the environment is capturing the data, how it's storing the data. And all this really, aligns with your analytics, your security, and your ability to actually access the data. And I talked about the House bills, and so the the main areas within the House bills really is the comprehensive data integration, being able to look at students' insights, the data regarding the students, and what that analytics is providing. The individual academic enhancement is part of the analytical tool that will be included in the future state. And this also is involved in the AI component of this application, the artificial intelligence and the predictive analysis of this application as well. And then the 2 areas within addressing this, the House bills really, is the data security and the data sharing, which I've talked about earlier. This is our timeline right now. This is historically what's happened, where we are right now. August is when we started our assessment with our teams. And what that means basically is what does the next couple months look like? What does next year look like? In September, there's 2 major deployment or 2 major deliverables that's going to be provided. One is the assessment. So what does the current environment look like? What are the current risks? What are the current workflows that we encounter? And then the second milestone really, the first one is milestones 1 to 3. There's 3 different components to it. Milestone 4 is the deployment strategy. So based on the assessment that's created, what does that strategy look like moving forward, based on the requirements that are currently being captured? But also within the House bill as well, I'd like to address the fact that we actually met with OCHE yesterday and their technical resources to capture the information which was needed in terms of what their needs were, what the integration would look like. This was our initial conversation with them, and we plan to continue to have these conversations on a monthly level with OCHE as well as other members, other stakeholders within this program as well. And then in June of 2024 is when we're looking to deploy the application. And so after the application is deployed, there's going to be a period of time where we're actually going to evaluate, make sure that all the requirements are met, the application is doing exactly and behaving in a manner that is consistent with our requirements and the House bill. And up until after June, up until February the following year, that's when we're looking at sign off. So during this time, really, any changes, any updates that need to be made should occur after the deployment. And so those are the 3 main areas that we're looking in terms of our assessment and deployment and our final sign off. And those are the key main areas for the update at this point. Like I said, you can find the this project plan or the project status update on the website. And until then, if there's if there's any questions, please ask, and I'll be happy to try to answer for you.
Thank you, Zam. Any questions on this process? I know it might seem a little technical, but for transparency, I want to just share that we're working quite robustly with all of our state partners with this. Excellent. I do want to add just two other opportunities before 45 minutes has gone into this meeting, and I thank you for staying with us. We have a parent discussion tomorrow. We do this once a month. These are going to be over two bills. One is a Senate bill and one is a House bill. So we have House Bills 676 by Representative Carrie Seekins Crow, and we have Senate Bill 518 that is by Senator Manzella. Another note that I wanted to share with you is that Montana has been awarded Blue Ribbon schools. There are 3 of them. It is embargoed for another 45 minutes. So I can't tell you who they are, but there will be a press release coming out. A great celebration. We had a lot of discussion discussing test scores, but as we all know, in public education, it isn't about one single test score. It's about what teachers' relationship with themselves, within the school leadership, as well as with parents and students. So recognizing that Blue Ribbon Schools does focus on a test score, there's a lot of great things that are happening, not just in these 3 schools that will be awarded, but across all of our schools in our great state. So with that, with no other further questions, blessings to you this beautiful fall day, and stay safe. Thank you. Bye-bye.